I'm James Sampson. We have Nathaniel Joy and Bo Morgan if you want to get it started.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the webinar. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you. This is six-figure flipping. We're going to show you how to flip houses. It's really just the basics without having to put up all of your money to buy that big dollar house, right? So I'm guessing for a lot of you, this is probably not your first webinar. The first thing I want to mention is that if you failed at real estate investing before in the past, it's not your fault. There's a lot of information out there and it can be confusing. Many times that information overload can keep you from success. If you have been concerned in the past that you just can't succeed in real estate investing, I want to put those fears to rest because you can do this. You just need the right person to explain it to you, right? The big corporations want you to think that, you need to have a college degree, a lot of capital in order to be successful. They're definitely wrong. They have their reasons for want you to think that way, but it's not true. If you ever thought the government, the banks want you to fail, you're probably right. They don't benefit from you succeeding, right? They want to keep you in debt and always in need. The difference with us is that we actually care about your success and truly want to see you live the life of your dreams. So that's what we're here for. I know you have a dream to change the world and make an impact, and I want to show you how to make that happen during this webinar. So the goals of this webinar, man, just really show you how easy it is to flip a property. Whether you want to do, if you're in the process of finding it or you want to in the process of funding it, whatever the case may be, it can definitely be done. So without a doubt, Nate Joy, James Sansi, y'all can go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Bo. Appreciate that. All right. Go ahead, Nate. Let's get it going.
Okay, do you want to share the screen? I guess before we start, we just kind of piggyback on what Bo was saying is that, so James and I are both real estate investors. James owns a brokerage, and I've been flipping houses probably for the last 2 decades. One of the things that in 2021 we wanted to do, as Bo had mentioned, was kind of give back to the community and help educate people to show them how easy it is to really be a real estate investor. It's ironic, James and I are both from District Heights, so you'll see how 2 kids from District Heights are able to do things. And we're going to start with the presentation. It's really going to be informal. So if people have questions, do we have the access, James, where people can jump in? Because we
yes, just unmute yourself.
Yeah. So this is like going to be free flowing. If you have a question, you can put it in the chat.
Candace, make my
or if you just want to jump in and ask the question, by all means, please do. Chances are, if you have that question, other people have that question, you're going too fast, you gotta slow down. This is really all about helping you guys. So whatever information you need, if you haven't gone over it, by all means, please help us. We have a couple of slides that we're gonna go over just to kind of keep us on point. And then if we have time and you guys want like a live case study, we can share with you actually the deal that we just did, and I think it'll kind of bring everything home for you guys. So James will start it off with, just kind of the basics of how to flip.
All right, can everybody see my screen? Thumbs up. All right. So the first, we're going to talk about funding it, finding it, fixing it, and flipping it. All right, the first portion we'll talk about is funding the deal. So funding the deal, where you're going to get, this is something you want to do prior to actually going out to find the deals, have an idea how you're going to pay for it. So you have private lenders. Private lenders consist of we call it also hard money lenders, which is basically not going to the traditional banks. This would be, somebody who can fund your deal very fast. So the buying power goes up. So most the advantage of dealing with private lenders is that you don't have to go through the whole process of the 30, 45 days of formal appraisal and all those things. With the private lender, once you're qualified, and the qualification looks the same way as the traditional banks, it'll be your pay stubs based on your current income. But what they can offer is the ability to close very fast. And then you want to add anything to private lenders?
Yeah, for the most part, the main reason you want to find all of this out up front is you want to have an idea of A, how much money you're going to need to bring to a particular deal, and then two, how much buying power do you have? So if you're approved for $300,000, it's no sense in looking for houses that are going to be $500,000-$600,000. So you want to try to get as much of this leg work done up front.
Thank you.
Hey, a question.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Dalian. I appreciate the gentleman sharing this information.
What's up, Dalian? How you doing, man? Good to see
Hey,
you.
what's going? Hey, man, you got me excited since I meet last
Yeah.
I can't stop thinking about it, so I'm excited. With the private lending, could you go over the pay structure of the private lending? I understand the traditional banks and the finance and all that. How much am I paying if I go to this private lender? What does that look like? Over.
It's usually going to be it's going to be higher interest, and that's because I guess we're doing it's rehab is a more risky transaction than a lot of traditional banks don't even do these type of deals where they help you buy it and then give you the money to fix it up as well. So the interest is probably going to be higher. It's definitely going to be higher. Usually somewhere between 8 and 15%. And the amount of interest you're going to pay is, largely due to your experience and, also just, over time building a relationship, rates and stuff usually go down. But in the beginning, it's usually going to be a higher interest rate. Is that kind of what you mean by that, or?
Yeah, definitely. And again, and maybe I'll get into it. Like I told you, I'm a numbers guy. So if I borrowed $300,000, I just got to figure that those numbers.
Oh, yeah, we definitely. Yeah, we're coming down your street here momentarily. We have a hard money calculator. I don't know if you want to get into that now, Nate, since we hit on private lending, or do you want to hold on to it?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we'll go through a case study, but pretty much what James was saying is that for private lenders, a lot of it depends on your experience. Typically, it's going to be 2 to 3 points, and what points are 2 to 3% of whatever the total loan amount would be. So if we're borrowing $300,000, right off the bat, you're going to pay the lender $9,000 for just processing the loan. And then on average, for somebody that's kind of getting into the arena, you're probably going to realistically be looking at somewhere between 10 and 12% interest. So if you just took 10%, or just say 12% interest, that would just be 1% per month. So on a $300,000 loan, it would be $3,000 in interest. Typically, the projects will take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to rehab. So you're talking like 3% of the purchase price, which would be $300,000. That's $9,000, and then you're talking about $3,000 per month in interest payments. And we're using $300,000. Some deals will be less, some deals will be more. So in totality, if you did it for 6 months, it would be $18,000 in interest payments, $3,000 per month times 6, and then you would have the 3% up front of the 300. So that would be 9. So what is that? 18 plus 9 would be like $27,000 in interest. And when we go through the case study scenario, there are calculators that you can plug all of these numbers into, so you'll actually have like a visual, and it'll make a lot more sense at that point.
Yeah, but that was perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for, just kind of see the numbers and what type, just like you said, the interest that we're looking for. So thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So the next one would be community banks. Community banks are great because it's basically old school face-to-face business. You kind of sit down with, the president or vice president, tell them what you're trying to do, and you can go in and, start working a relationship. The rates are usually better than private lender or hard money. And then some of the community banks, like some of the ones we partner with, they actually do move pretty fast. You could probably get a deal done if you're pre-qualified in about 2 weeks. And then also they're great for anybody who's interested in like buying and holding. Most community banks have a portfolio, meaning that they'll actually fund it and hold it themselves. So they're good for if you want to build a rental portfolio as well. And then also for funding the deal, it could be with other investors. So if, like we have in here, say Rodney and Calvin Mitchell, you guys could come together and, do a combination of, if Calvin wants to get the financing, but Rodney has the cash, you can work out pretty much any type of agreement you want to work out, but you can always look to get deals funded with working with other investors as well. Also, I want to throw in here under this is also, we're going to cover it, but maybe you don't plan to do the rehab yourself. You can also sell your deal to another investor, which is called wholesaling, and we'll go more into that as well. And then lastly, joint ventures. Joint ventures is kind of what I just described, but it's just basically also another structure that's really popular and that I've used for many years is with the joint ventures. If you have somebody maybe of a high net worth, that they can put up the money and you provide the expertise. So it's very important, like coming to meetups like this and getting the information, becoming an expert. That can be the value that you add to the transaction. So that would be like a joint venture. Anything else you want to add on this one, Nate, before we move on?
No, that's perfect.
All right.
Perfect.
Oh, and how could I forget? Retirement accounts as well. So anybody out there that's may have been working on a job, you can always check into each retirement accounts, have different rules, but retirement accounts is another great way to fund a real estate deal. And we can talk about more about that online, offline, but in general, retirement accounts is another. You can lend somebody, whether that's you going to your family members, and they can put together, pool their retirement accounts to loan it to you, or use your own personally. All right, find the deal. So we know how we're going to fund the deal. Now let's find the deal. So networking, like what we're doing here now, like one of the things that me and Nate do, we try to touch a lot of real estate professionals, whether that's real estate agents, talking to real estate agents, letting them know what you're doing, what you're getting into is a great source. Also coming to real estate meetups like this is always a networking component here. Everybody here, I hope, exchanges information and have conversations later would be under networking. You have any more for networking, Nate?
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, just that your network is definitely going to determine your net worth.
Yeah.
So this is probably the most important of all of the different tools you'll have is networking. You have to get out of your comfort zone, and you really have to talk to a lot of people. And that's the old saying: your network is going to determine your net worth.
Amen. Look, wholesalers too. So wholesalers are like, if you're riding around town and you always see "we buy houses, we buy ugly houses," the signs, actually start writing those phone numbers down and calling those people, because a lot of them are wholesalers. They have transactions that they may have on the contract that they're looking to sell. So if you can build a network of having 100, 200 wholesalers in your phone, then you're never going to really, look for deals, because you'll be getting calls all the time. It's all about, shaking hands, meeting friends, talking to people. The more people you talk to, the more business you're going to do. Does anybody have any questions about wholesalers? How to get in contact with wholesalers? This real estate meetup we're doing now, there could be wholesalers in the room. If you're there, drop your number in the chat. Does anybody have any questions? No? And then the biggest one that we can all get off of this call immediately today and go to work on is our spirit influence. So probably, within all of us, with people that we know, there's probably 9 or 10 real estate deals there that we just haven't tapped into. So that just goes back to being vocal, getting out, letting people know what you're doing. And a good place to start is your spirit influence. Does everybody know what a spirit influence is? All right, guess so. Okay, and then
Please explain.
oh, sure. So sphere influence would be the people who you already have a relationship with. So starting with your family to your immediate family, and then you work your way out. Whether that's it could be your church. You know, if you're a member of a church, people know you. You start letting them people know what you're doing. If you go play basketball at the YMCA, you know, every week, you can start letting them know what you're doing. Your Facebook, your social media. That's another good place to start putting it out there, letting people know what you're doing. And it's an old saying, squeaky wheels don't get oil. If you let people know what you're doing, then maybe they want to help you, or may know somebody that may have a house. So just putting the word out there, basically, to people, starting with people you know, working your way out to people you don't know. Go ahead, man.
One thing on this with the networking, we call it an elevator pitch, and basically you want to pretty much summarize exactly what you do within 60 seconds. So if you want an elevator, you should be able to explain to somebody in between floors exactly what you do. So an example would be pretty much anybody that I meet, hi, my name's Nate Joy. I'm a real estate investor in the DMV area. I look to, flip houses. I'm always looking for houses to rehab. If there's anything that we can do to work together, I would love to, talk to you more. So it's just very brief, succinct, and you say it 1,000 times. And so that's me, what I'm doing for rehabbing. If you're a real estate agent, obviously you have a different spiel, or if you're a wholesaler. But you just want to basically be able to say it as soon as possible and as fast as possible.
Hey, James and Nate, we got a question in the chat from Ms. Ross. She's talking about, is there money left for the investor with the wholesaler deals, and can we explain how much does it take away from the profit? So basically, a wholesale deal is you put yourself in the middle between a seller and a buyer. So if the seller wants to sell the house for $150 and the house is worth $400, you can wholesale your contract. You can assign your contract to that investor for $200,000. You have $50,000 for yourself that gets paid at closing, which is normally 7 to 14 days. And then the investor may put like $90,000 into it, and they walk away with the $100,000 after they resell it. So it all depends upon if you have a good deal or not. What number do you get it under contract for when you talk directly to the seller? And then obviously the investors wouldn't buy it if it wasn't a good deal. So if you have a good deal, they'll be lined up at your door waiting for you to have another one, Ms. Ross.
Did everybody understand what Bo was talking about with the wholesaling or signing?
Can you go a little bit deeper?
Sure.
So,
go ahead. Question.
I think we're trying to, well, for me, I'm trying to figure out, like, how does the investor know that it's a good deal from the wholesaler? If we, because they also trying to make money, which I understand, so you're kind of breaking some of the profit off there, right? With the wholesaler up front, because you pay a little more than if you found it yourself. So I'm wondering, like, how do we know that that's a good deal, getting it from the wholesaler?
Well, everyone has their, James, you want to answer?
No, go ahead, Bo. You can answer that.
Go ahead, Bo.
you on mute, Bo.
You on mute.
You're on mute, Bo.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was saying every investor or end buyer has their own buying criteria. Some investors are fine with buying a house to make $30,000 on a flip. Some don't want to do that. Some want to make $100,000. So it depends upon your cash buyer list and your network. Kind of go back to what Nate and James were saying about networking. It goes all back to that. So you can't tell somebody what their business model is. That makes sense. So if they want to make X amount of dollars, and your deal has been making X amount of dollars after they run the numbers themselves, then they'll buy it from you. If they think that does not fit in their criteria, they'll want to buy at 50% of the ARV, then that deal may not be for that investor. It just varies, but it varies between business models. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Keely, for the question, and thank you both for the answer. Now, the next under Find It, we have the MLS for all the real estate agents in the room that have access to the MLS. If you're not a real estate agent and you don't have access to the MLS, you can always partner with a real estate agent and they can make you their assistant through the MLS, which you'll be able to pay the same fees that the real estate agent, I think it's like $165 every 3 months, and then that would give you access to the MLS. So just partner with a local agent, and if you don't know anybody, you can always call me and I'll try to hook you up with somebody. But through the MLS, you have expired listings. So that's always a good source of people that you may want to call that may be willing to work out a deal with an investor, meaning that they had their property on the market, it didn't sell for whatever reason. That could be price, it could be condition of the property, just a number of different factors, but that's usually somebody who may be open to a cash offer because they've had it on the open market and they didn't get anything that worked for them. Also, another source that I've always been successful for at different times, depending on the market that we're in, but properties that end up getting high days on the market, which we don't see a lot of that right now because everything's moving, but this has always been a traditional good source. When properties get to, 200, 250 days on the market and days like that, I usually will call and try to figure out if there's any way that we can add value, to help them move that property. So that could be another good source. And then distressed listing. So once you're in the MLS, you can always go to remarks and search like estate sale. Estate sales is when somebody has passed away, left the property to another family member. Maybe that family member doesn't want to deal with the property, have it on the market. Those have always been deals where I've been able to get a discount on. Also like bankruptcy sales or short sales. Any distressed situation is usually a good opportunity for an investor. If there's any questions, just unmute yourself. Also, the public record. So the tax record. Public record is the tax record. The tax record is good for, like, you can get a list of absentee owners. So like people who own property that they don't live in. The property's in DC, they're in Florida, and they're getting calls from the neighbors, the tenant is cutting up and police are there every other day. That may be a good opportunity for an investor to come in and relieve the property from that owner and the stress that goes along with it. Also, under public record, you can, all the real estate agents, again, you have Realty Track. Realty Track is a site within the MLS where you can pull up anybody who is late, as soon as you don't pay a mortgage payment, they begin the foreclosure process, and that is also public record. So that'll show up. You can go and find anybody who's behind on their mortgage, and that's another good source of somebody you may want to call that may need a parachute. And as investors, we want to go in and provide them with that. And then probate leads. I touched on this just a minute ago, but probate leads meaning where somebody has passed away, their own property, and it's been left to a family member or the executor of the estate is the person that's going to handle the business. You will want to get in touch with them, call them, and just find out what do they want to do with the property. For real estate agents, this is a great source for listings, and it's also a great source for investment deals. So you can kind of play it both ways. First, as an investor, always to see if you can pick up the deal. If you can't agree to a price that makes sense, maybe you can list the property for them and make some money that way.
How do you locate probate leads or probate deals?
You can, so before the pandemic, you could go into any courthouse and say if you're in Prince George's County, you can go into the PG courthouse and they have an actual probate office. And in that office, they have computers and you can get all the information on the computer. Now that, because of COVID, obviously you can't go into the courtroom, but now everything is available online. And if I want to put my contact information on, we can get together and I'll show you exactly how to do that offline. But you can go online in any jurisdiction and get the probate leads. Also, you can pay for it. I think it's a site called US Leads. Is it right, Nate? Is it USA Leads?
Yes.
USA Leads. US Lead List.
US Lead List.
Okay, and maybe we'll get that put into the chat. US Lead List. You can actually pay for the leads. And another one that I subscribe to is called. When it comes to me, I'm going to put it in the chat, but you can also pay for those leads as well. Any other questions? Cool. All right, so we funded the deal, we found the deal. Now we know how to find the deal. Next is fix the deal. If you want to take this one, Nate.
Either way, you can keep going.
Okay. So under fix it, so one of the important things would be to select the contractor. So you want to, as far as selecting contractors, some of the things I've done is we really just try to, think outside the box. So like I've actually drove around the city or whatever jurisdiction I'm in, and I like to find people who are actively working. I don't particularly like to get the guys standing outside of Home Depot, and I've tried that. They usually are there for a reason. They aren't the best workers, whether that's price or whatever. So I like to get guys that are actively working on other projects where you can see what they're working on and just start building a relationship from there. And so that's one way. And then also you can use your network, which you have here, which is between me and Nate. We have tons and tons of contractors. We've tested a lot of people, so we can probably get you hooked up with somebody in our network as well. And then also under fix it, how do you do the rehab? Like if you're trying to decide, for one, you have the comp that you use earlier on that you use to actually figure out what the after repair value is. Usually we kind of use that as a cookie cutter. Like we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We'll take somebody else's business model as far as how they rehab the house for that neighborhood, and we'll duplicate that. We don't really, there's no need for a lot of, creativity when it comes to the rehab. We kind of just want to do what's already out there, and that keeps us from overspending on the rehab and then also from underspending on the rehab. You don't want to be on either side of that. You want to hit it right at the sweet spot. The sweet spot is the history, what's already happened. And then this one, I should have put it in all caps, or like they say, no cap, whatever. But never advance too much money to the contractor. Never advance too much money to the contractor. And if we have any contractors in here, no offense, but our thing is you want to always be in a position that if you and that contractor get into a discrepancy and they walk off the job, you're still in the position to finish the job. So that's my first job, because we wear multiple hats here as the project manager. I need to manage that project properly, and part of that is making sure that you don't get, so for me, if a contractor works Monday through Saturday and I've gone on the job and I can see progress, then I'll pay him for the labor. The material, we usually try to control it ourselves by, you can get what's called a managed account at Home Depot or Lowe's. And what happens is when the contractors go to buy material, they'll call you over the phone to verify the sale, or they'll send you a text message. And then once you get that text message, you can open it up, see what they're buying, and it should coincide with whatever place or progress you're at in the job. So this is a good way to manage what's going on. So now you're managing the material by paying for it yourself, and then you're not advancing them any money. They're getting paid after they work. And last time I checked, that's the way we do things in America. And then last is the easy part. So once all that is done, I would you would call one of the great agents from Realty One Group or anybody to list the property for you. Any questions, comments on that? And then here, we're gonna give you this a couple times, but this is Nate and I. And Nate, I think you had something that you want everybody to do for this part.
Yeah, so, once again, you'll see as we start trying to network, one of the things that we're doing is we're trying to build a Facebook and Instagram presence. So if at any point in time you feel like you're getting any type of value from this presentation, these are our handles, Instagram. If you can just maybe take like a selfie of you watching, the Zoom, and then just tag us, at ROG Assets, Greenbelt, and then mine would be at Dream Level Living. We would really appreciate it. It actually goes a long way in terms of helping us, provide future content and information as well. I'm going to share my screen a little bit, all right? And so at this point, okay. Can everybody see my screen right here?
Thumbs up if you can see it, please.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
It's on. Okay. So I just want to say a couple of things real quick, because I know, you know, the challenge is that when you're on like a Zoom call like this, you know, we try to squeeze in as much information as we can, you know, to provide value for you guys. But I know at times it can seem a little overwhelming, and that's not, you know, what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to let everyone know how easy the process is. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed about anything, there's a couple of things. Number one, every expert was once a beginner. So everyone starts somewhere. So that's number one. Number two, you're not in this thing alone. So James and I are always here. We've had students, we've had partnerships. Like I said, we're really trying to help people get to the next level. So always feel free. You have our cell numbers, email addresses. There's no such thing as a free lunch. I always say that. So at some point, you have to bring value to the table, whether it be your time. If you don't have a lot of money and you have time, that's a value. If you are like a corporate person and you have money and you just don't have a lot of time, you know, you would provide, you know, various monetary contributions to a project. So you just kind of have to figure out what can you bring to the party, and then you try to associate yourself with other people, and then you bring all those resources together. There's an old saying that you don't need to have a lot of resources in order to get into real estate investing, but you have to be very resourceful. So I think James is a prime example. When he started out, and he always tells the story of how he had negative credit. I mean, you know, the guy, you know, when I met him, he had a lot of time and energy, and within a short period of time, he did not let that stop him. He actually jokes and says that he didn't even have $0 in the bank. He owed people money, so he called it negative credit. Within months, he found the right resources and was able to start flipping houses at such a high volume, and it paid dividends. And that's what we're trying to get across to people, is that you don't need a lot, you just have to be resourceful and enjoy your time. So think about that. Here's the kind of the fun part that we kind of get into, and I don't think most people kind of get into this, and this is kind of what we call behind the curtains. This is like what happens when like somebody sends us an investment deal, and you're basically going to see exactly how James and I would go through and evaluate an investment deal, okay? So for this particular one, this was actually one that we received through networking. It was an off-market. It was actually on-market, but off-market in the sense that we networked with a real estate agent. They had a client that needed to sell the property extremely fast, and they know that we were able to close, you know, super fast. So they gave us the opportunity to, this was basically, you'll see down here the picture, this was basically a row home in the Southeast DC quarter. I apologize, I don't have the original photos. My 15-year-old son accidentally erased them, so we don't have the interior ones. but you can tell.
Is it? Are you still seeing the listing
That
page?
it was an older style townhome. It had radiator heat.
Candace,
Basically,
are you
the
saying
house
just the
needed a
listing?
full
Yeah.
rehab. So this is what will happen. Agent will call us, or one of the people will call, and they say, I have this property. It's 1465 Ridge. So we immediately would put it in, we would get a picture of it, okay? Then,
And Nate, right now, all we have is it's showing the MLS listing.
oh, okay, the MLS listing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, we could just see the MLS listing.
Oh, okay, thank you. Let me see. Sorry about that.
Maybe you gotta stop sharing the MLS and then share it again and try it.
You gotta do it that way. Sorry, folks, I'm,
See,
still-
we're real estate investors. We're learning this, the
yeah.
computer part.
All right, how about now? Can you see the picture?
Yes, you can see
Okay.
it.
All right, so this is kind of where we are. This is the southeast corridor. This is a great website that's free for people. It's called Property Quest. You can just put in a property address. It'll give you some brief information on it, how much the land area is. It'll give you a picture of it, and it'll kind of give you a neighborhood. This is just kind of a starting point. So as soon as we get the property address, we will put it in to something like that. Now so we have an idea of the picture. I'm gonna take us to, can you see the MLS?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So here we go. So now we go, this is what we call the MLS. This is where you would get a lot of your comparables. For those of you who don't have access to the MLS, this is where you would hook up with somebody that does, whether it be a real estate agent or a broker like James. The way we do it is, we just basically, we put in the address, we put in active, under contract, pending, and closed. This is what we call comparables, okay? This is the period, because remember, I bought this house back in September of 2020. So what I was what we're doing is, we're doing it as though we had a deal come in today. So basically, we're looking at all the comparables of houses that sold between this time frame. So just pretend like it's September right now.
And you saw at the top, Nate had a map search. Nate, did you go over that map search? Your criteria, what the radius, why you picked that radius?
So, yeah, so basically right here where it says map search, you can do it actually on the map, but we do a tight radius. Typically I do 0.1 or 0.25. You really want to stay within a tight radius, because what happens is it gives you more exact style comps. As you can see right here, there's 22. If I change this to a mile radius and updated it, you'll see down here it's 297 matches. A mile in DC is like the difference between being in northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest.
North America, South America.
A tight radius. All right, so
if that was in Maryland, you would expand it out to possibly a further radius if you weren't getting enough comps within that point.
Yeah, exactly. Great question. So we always start tight, and then if we're not getting enough information, we expand the radius, and the same goes with the time frame. We start with a 3-month or a 6-month time frame, and if we're not getting the information, say we're in a particular area or zip code, that's very popular and there's just no comps, we'll go back even a year and then just try to estimate, because there's some neighborhoods where there's just not a lot of turnover, which is good because that means that the house is going to sell extremely fast because not much hits the market in those particular areas. So once we do this, we're going to get the results, okay? The house that we were looking at was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. Typically, for a row home like that, you're just really going to keep the same floor plan, and you're just maybe going to add another bathroom. So you'll see like these comps. So for instance, if I look at this comp, 1334 T Street, it has 4 bedrooms, 4 baths, and it's 1,600 square feet. Our subject property was 900 square feet. So this wouldn't be a good comp to look at, okay? Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to match it up exactly comp for comp. So we're going to go back to the results, and this is what we do on a regular basis. So we're going to look for something a little closer. So we have 3 bedrooms, we're going to have 2 baths. 1816 S Street. This looks similar to the house that we did, right? It was a porch front, nice, nice grass, and then what we do is we just kind of look through the pictures. And
That's you,
we get a
Candace?
sense
No.
for like what we're looking for in the pictures are like the level of renovation. So we see that they have hardwood here. They didn't open the floor plan. Typically, the newer floor plans are going to get more money. So this is more like a cosmetic rehab, granite, countertop, stainless steel. So what we're looking for is we want to make sure that whatever our rehab is, it meets the comp. We don't want to make it look too much better, and we definitely don't want to make it look, look worse. So these are some of the pictures that we would go through to kind of get, an idea. We're also looking to see right here, this is like central air, just making sure recessed lights, different things that just to kind of understand what exactly our product needs to look like. James, do you have any comments?
No, you hit it on the head.
Okay, so that would be one, which is like around 500,000. We'll go back to the results. We usually like to try to find 2 or 3, and we like to usually try to find something that's on the same street. Here's one which is exactly on the same street. Ours was the 1400 block. This one's the 1500 block. Let's see what this one looks like. Basically the exact same house. This one was 450,000. One of the other things that we're really trying to pay attention to is time on market, okay? Right here, this is very key. See, 7 days it was on market and it went under contract in 7 days. This gives you an idea of how hot the market is. If the market is extremely hot, this number will be low. If the market is like slower in your particular area, this number could go all the way up to the 100, 200s. We're trying to find properties that are in areas that are like extreme hot. Another good thing to look at is down here, seller concessions amount. This is what is called closing help. So the price that it went for was $450,000, okay? But the net price that the seller walked away with was actually $437,000 because they had to give $13,000 in closing help. So this is similar. This is all information that you want to have in your mind, because that's going to affect, how much you're going to be able to resell it for. So we're going to look at this picture real quick. This is 450,000. Okay, so they renovated it. This is like baseboard heating. So this is kind of what you would refer to as like a cosmetic renovation.
Patch and
Because they
paint.
didn't really put in the full central air. As you see from the other picture, there's only one light versus recessed lighting. So you're looking through these pictures. You see right here, radiator heat, the kitchen. And this one doesn't look as nice as the other one, right? And we're just kind of getting a gauge for it. So we're going through quickly, we're looking, and so we know right now, this one sold for 450. I'll just go back to the other one real quick. The other one sold for 500,000. Let's see how long it stayed on the market. This one sold in 4 days. There was no closing held, so $500,000 seems to be pretty much what we would think that this house goes for, okay? So now we've run our comps. So the purchase price that we were getting ours at was, let me just go here real quick. Okay, so this is the house, just to kind of remind you guys. This is the house that we're looking at. The purchase price was $275,000. Everybody, write this down. You make your money when you buy the house, not when you sell the house. I repeat, you make your money when you buy the house, not when you sell the house. And what that means is, as real estate investors, we only buy houses at a discount. If you cannot buy the house and turn around and sell it the next day as is for a profit, you might want to kind of reconsider the deal. Now, DC, the advantage is you can buy houses that are, this is actually probably at the time close to the market price, anywhere from 275 to 300,000. You can buy houses in DC because, as you'll see, we're going to have a value add. Everybody clear on how we run our comps? All right. So now once we run the comps, here's where the fun kind of begins. We're going to go to the question earlier. How do we evaluate the deal through, let me see. Can you see the hard?
Yeah, we can see the hard money calculator.
You can see
Yeah,
it?
but roll the screen up a little bit so we can see the numbers.
So here we go.
Yeah.
So this is where you don't have to be a mathematician, but you gotta have a little bit of idea about the numbers. And this is where two guys from District Heights, who probably weren't the best in math, can make a living. It's pretty simple. So here are the inputs. We're gonna put it in. The purchase price, $275,000, okay? Our rehab budget is $100,000. We talked earlier about partnering with the contractor.
Tell Bo Braxton.
Here's where you have to get resourceful. If you don't know how to estimate how much it costs to rehab a house, then what would you do? You would just partner with somebody that knows how to look at the houses and how to give you an estimate. We have people on our teams that's their specialty. John Paul, who's our project manager, couldn't be on the call today, but he's pretty much the one that can look at the pictures and tell us. So for this particular one, we came up with a $100,000 budget. Our after repair value is $500,000, correct? We just went over that with the comps. Let's just say we're getting hard money on this particular deal. Hard money, the way hard money works is that they'll typically advance you 90% of whatever the total cost of the project would be. So the total cost of this project would be $275,000 plus $100,000, $375,000. We're going to get 90% of that. So typically the way it works is they'll give you 90% of the purchase price at closing, and then this $100,000 will be in what's called a rehab escrow. That's where you're basically going to have the money set aside, and as you do draws, you'll draw it down from the lender. The turnaround time to close, typically our deals go anywhere from 6 to 9 months. When you're doing numbers like this, you always want to be on the conservative side. So we wouldn't put a 6-month turnaround. We would go with the longer of the two. So we'll put 9 months here. Our interest rate is 10%. You can change it. This is, how the numbers would work. This is how we were talking about earlier. The 2 points is the loan origination fee. That's what the lender would charge you. That's why you need to know how much the lender is going to charge you up front. The real estate broker fee is going to be 6%. It can be anywhere from 5 to 6%. On this particular deal, it was 6%. And the way we did it is that if a real estate agent brings us a deal, we give them the front part of the deal where they write the buy and the sell side on the front, and then we give them the listing on the back, which is 3%. The buyer's agent, whoever brings the buyer to the table, will also get 3%. That's how you get 6%. If we found this deal on our own through our own marketing, the broker fee would be 3% because we wouldn't pay an agent to list the property. There are services that you could just put it on the MLS for a flat fee for service listing. For this one, we're doing 6%, okay? The property taxes are $1,000. State and recording are going to be 1.5%. Typically, I think it's really 1.45, but once again, we try to go over. So this ends up being the total project cost, $447,000. It tells you right here, if we sold it at $500,000, this is what our net profit would be $52,000. And then it breaks it down. This calculator breaks down. This is the loan amount, anything. This was the interest payment. We had guesstimated that it would be $2,896. Your return on investment is 11.8%, but this is actually a lot higher because if you put down whatever your down payment is, you're really taking, 52% of whatever, $52,000 in profit. You might have only had to put $100,000 into the deal. So if you put $100,000 into the deal and you got all your money back plus $52,000, you ended up with a 50% profit. So there's cash on cash return, and then there's return on the project itself. So these are just some of the other things. Is everybody clear on the inputs of how you would do this calculator?
What is the name of the calculator again?
This one is called a hard money calculator. James could probably copy the link and put it into the to the chat box.
Yeah.
But it's called a hard money.
Candace, can you do that, please?
A hard money
Yeah, I just
calculator.
don't know. I was
think
trying
this
to
one is
random. I just don't have the same
probably
one
the most
I was looking
user-friendly.
for.
Go ahead,
But I got
James.
it.
Did
I
you
got
have
it.
something to say, or you good?
No, Nate, on this example, but just to be clear, it's probably, the cash on cash is probably closer to like 100, because you said they're putting in the 10%, adding in the payments, the profit and what they probably put in could be pretty much close to the same, depending on, I mean, the money you put out for the rehab, but you did get that money back, guys. So when you started the rehab out of pocket, but by the time you finish, all of that money has come back to you. So the cash on cash is probably closer to 100%. You may have doubled your money on this deal.
100%, yeah.
Yep.
So what he's saying is if the total project cost was $447, you're required to put in 10%. So you're putting in 10% here, which is about $44,000. 9 months of interest payments are going to be another $27,000. So really, cash out of your pocket is probably, like, let's just call it $80,000. But you're really getting that $52,000. So your return is like exponential.
Yeah.
And once again, you're probably saying, well, suppose I don't have $80,000. Well, if you have good credit, you might find somebody like that's even on this call that has the $80,000, and then they're willing, because they're probably getting like no interest on that money whatsoever. So if you could take $80,000 in 9 months, even get half of that, which is $25,000, $26,000, you're still like in double-digit returns. So it's like a win-win all the way around. So this is how we do the hard money. I'm gonna jump to exactly what happened with this project so you guys can see the end result. So let's go back here. Okay. Everybody can see.
Yeah,
everybody can see the screen.
Yes.
All right. So here's what happened. This was what we ended up selling it for. We went in thinking that we were going to sell it for $500,000, and we ended up selling it for $536,000. Remember what I said, you want to plan for the worst and hope for the best. So we ended up actually, you saw how we ran the comps and we conservatively comped it at $500,000. We ended up selling it at $536,000. And you can see right here, time on the market was actually 2 days, and there was no closing help. We bought the property in September. So what is that? October, November, December. So we had planned on holding the property for 9 months, but we actually sold it in February, so that's 5 months, okay? We'll go back to the calculator and readjust, but I just wanted to kind of give you guys an idea. So this is the same house, as you can see, the two houses next door. Maybe we could actually see if we could buy those. But yeah, so this is how it kind of came out. As you can see, we did pretty much the same renovations. We opened it up, which tends to get you a little bit more money. All of our renovations and most renovations for investors are going to be the same. Most people are going to go with, granite countertops. Staging is always good because if you stage a property, it just kind of gives it a better look. What we're looking at on a regular basis. So now, if you go back to your So now we go back to this hard money calculator, right? So the after repair value, we ended up getting $536,000. It didn't take 9 months. It took 5 months.
The interest rate was probably 8%.
Interest rate, we paid cash for it, but typically, once you start rehabbing, the interest rate goes down. So our interest rate, if we were to do this project, would be 8%. We're giving the real estate agent the 6%, so that'll stay the same. And so now you can see, just by going in conservatively, okay, this is what the profit ended up being. Instead of $52,000, it ended up being $100,000. Okay, so now if you go back to that same scenario that James was talking about, we were still into the deal for $80,000. Actually, we were into the deal a little less because the interest was a little lower for us. But you could see 80,000. Now you're talking about 100% return on your investment just by, changing some of the things. A couple of takeaways, and then I'll just open it up for questions. You never want to overshoot, because if you want to start conservative and then be well surprised at the end, if possible. Okay, that's number one. And then in terms of the interest rate, the same thing. You always want to be conservative. But if you find another money investor or partner, things can, actually, work out a little better. All right, so I'll stop sharing. You can jump in, James, if there's any questions. I know we kind of took a lot of time, but now I guess we could open it.
And one thing I want to add is that Nate had mentioned a good point. Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Nate had mentioned a good point about once you have that house and you're working on that rehab, it is a great opportunity to, for one, even if you're going to be working on the property, you want to introduce yourself to the neighbors, and then, which is a good, while you're talking to the neighbors, introducing yourself about your rehab. Hey, I'm James Sampson, I'm going to be working on this house, here's my number. If anything comes up, if there's any problems, contact me. So we want to do that, but that's also a good opportunity to kind of find out what's going on if there is an opportunity to pick up another purchase. So I think it is good to always have that mindset while you're working on something. Look around, kind of see what's going on in the neighborhood, ask questions, good answers, and that leads to more real estate deals. So there's no law against anybody doing 10 of these at a time. So he said he did that in 5 months. If there was 10 opportunities, you could have did $1 million in that 5 months. Nobody's coming to lock you up. Just pay your taxes.
Hey, James, I got a question.
Sure.
So one of the things when you were saying about the different types of investors, you have an idea or way, like you said, you have family members or friends that want to invest. Yeah, I got 20,000, I got 80,000. How do we structure what that return should be, compared to the deal? So I don't know if y'all have, kind of can speak to that. What's the proper return? And I know it's whatever it is, or what's
So I think
I had that conversation.
If they're going to be maybe a total passive investor, what I kind of hear a lot going around is somewhere between 8 and 15%. So if they were to loan you $100,000, you would pay them between 8 and 15% on an annual basis. So if you use the money for 8 months, then it would be it'd be annualized at that, whatever you agree upon. Somewhere between. I've always heard if the returns are over 15%, they kind of may look at it like this is too good to be true. But that's pretty much a good standard return. It beats any bank or CD or any other financial product that the banks offer.
Okay, and then Jack, the other side that also matches up well with, they're basically replacing hard lenders at that point. So, there's always those 4 elements to the deal, and at that point they're becoming a lender in a way. So it really is consistent with what the lending is from a hard money.
I'm sorry, say that again, say that part.
Earlier in the conversation, James pointed out that if you were to be an investor and to go try to get an investment loan, you're looking at getting 8 to 15% that you may have to give to a hard money lender. And so a lot of times you position it to family as, you know, those elements of the deal. At that point, your family or your friend or the person who's looking to be a passive investor, they're a lender.
They become the hard money. So he's saying,
that hard money lender.
Right.
And so, you know, rather than, you want to keep the money in the family, rather than giving the money to a hard money lender and letting them eat off of the 15%, you sometimes can keep it inside your circle of your sphere of influence.
Okay.
Did you get that? Basically, he's saying, use your family to replace Bank of America. Use your family to replace Wells Fargo. They're going to become the lender, and so you guys are making money, keeping all the money in-house. I think it's a great strategy.
So I'm tracking on that. Now, what about the points? Because like you said, I think it's the points plus the percentage. So is that something you talk to the family members or the friends, investors, and all that?
Well, I mean, that would be, you know, and look, everything is negotiable. I mean, I thought that the 8 to 15% return to loan is probably, you know, good enough. But if you want to sweeten the deal and you keep it in the family, why not? You know, it's the same thing it's the same. Those would be the exact same terms that the lender would offer you. So if you can keep that in-house, that's just better for everyone.
Okay, you definitely want to try to make it a win-win. I always, for the most part, tried to mimic what I would get from a lender, and basically just pretty much say what Pat said is, look, you know, if we can work together, because I think that once they do that first deal and they see that their money is making money, you know, they'll be more apt to invest. And you always want to win-win.
So now here's the last thing on that, and I apologize if it's going somewhat off topic. You know, getting with family members. Most of us I think most of us on the call, at least somewhat familiar with real estate, and understand that there is a potential to take a loss. You know, you know, if you have any experience in dealing with family, yeah, you're giving us money. We can lose it. I'm not trying to lose it. I'm trying to do everything we can. But I understand, like, we invest in the stock market. We know we can lose money on stock. So I don't know if you had any experience with that. If you had any, but you know, hey, you recommend it, not recommend it, because
I mean,
giving it to you, they think, hey, I want my money back. Well, we lost.
No, I think definitely you have to put it out there. I mean, all investments come with a share of risk, but like from what Nate was saying earlier with real estate, the difference is you make your money when you purchase. So if you're looking, the house next door sold for $500,000 and you're buying for $275,000, I mean, you've made money already. So I would still state that because anything can happen. But okay, let's talk about some scenarios. Say if and this actually happened to me as a real scenario, say the house burnt down to the ground. It happened. But we have insurance. So there's a couple checks and balances in place. So when the house burned down to the ground, the insurance, we had hazard insurance. The hazard insurance kicked in, and they came in and built a new house that was prettier and better than the other one, and we sold it for more money. Some of the other things that could happen, again, you could lose money if your contractor runs off with it, but we covered that earlier by, you know, and we can get into more detail about it, but you controlling the rehab and the cost can prevent that from happening. Any scenario you give is probably already a check and balance in place that if you follow the system and don't go too far outside of it, it's really hard to lose money on these real estate deals.
Sure. So here's probably, and Dalian, that's a great point. And I'll tell you this, because as James and I, you know, as we stand up here, typically the expert in the room, all that means is that we've made the most mistakes, right? That's all that it means is typically the guy talking in front is the one that's made the most mistakes. So what I would say is this, that real estate investing is a great opportunity. Most of the information you can learn about real estate investing is free, and James and I probably did it the hard way, where we went through the school of hard knocks. Sometimes thinking you're smarter than the game is to your detriment, and that's how I was. I learned, I didn't have anybody teaching me, and honestly, I thought that I was smarter than most people. And so what happens is that you need to surround yourself by people. I would say get a coach or a mentor, one of the two. And the reason being is that even Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, all these guys have coaches. It don't matter how good you are. James is kind of like my mentor, and vice versa, where deals to this day, if I get a deal, I run it by James, and he'll run it by me. Just as that double, not that we can't figure it out on our own, but you want somebody in your circle to like sign off on it, to say, hey, this is a good deal, and then kind of walk you through. So that's number one. I would invest a little money if you haven't done a deal, because we are talking about money, invest it in some form of coaching or some form of mentorship, because what it does is it reduces that timeline of your learning curve, and typically you're going to avoid a lot of the mistakes that can happen to people that are kind of jumping out there. And when we're talking about family money, no one wants to be at the cookout looking at their uncle, that you lose some money, right? So I would highly recommend, if that's the avenue and this is the first route you're going, just kind of reach out and, we try to figure it out. If it's not us, if it's somebody. Now, I will say this. If you do pick a mentor, or you do pick, like a guru, make sure they're currently doing what you want to do, because information does change and it's specific to location. So you don't want to try to follow somebody who's flipping houses in Kansas and you're in DC, because it's a totally different market. So that's number one. Number two, you don't want to flip with a guy that like was flipping 10 years ago, and he's like, man, I know every money down, thing, because times have changed. So you want somebody that's current, and you want a proven track record. Like, we're from, I don't know which state it was, Missouri or Mississippi, but you got to show me, like, check stubs of you making money, and I need to be able to verify, see it, smell it, touch it. Once you have those, then I think you have a good mentor and a coach, and then you can, feel a lot more comfortable going out. And I'll say this last part, because now when you go to your family members, because a lot of us are going to be doing this for the first time, they're like, man, we was just at the cookout. You don't know nothing about flipping no houses. Then you can use your coach as a resource, and we've done this where we actually get on a call with the family and say we're partnering, we're watching over. They can come out, see different projects that we've done. They can walk through them, and it gives them a sense that, it's just that level of comfort. Having said that, it's very, very hard to lose money in real estate investing if you buy property right. And that's pretty much, as you can see, there's so much profit that even if you did make some mistakes and lost 20 or 30 grand, if you're profiting 50 to 100, you're still going to come out with, as James and I say, at least a chicken dinner out of the deal. So those are my advices for people that are trying to get money from family.
And also,
I appreciate.
I was going to add one thing to that real quick. Also, with having a coach and a mentor helps, like with the lenders, like when you're going to get qualified, because the big thing that's important for the lenders is the experience piece. So it's always good to be able to attach your name with somebody who's, because usually the mentor is going to send you to their lenders. They have relationships. You drop the name, that helps your qualification move forward faster as well.
And you might get preferential rates.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gentlemen, I appreciate that, because these are all the questions that I've always had, always kind of kept my eye on wholesaling, but I couldn't figure it out, so I appreciate y'all kind of, at least for me, making it plain and getting to the nitty gritty of, okay, let's talk about the money, the dollars. You know, if I go to my cousin, or whoever, hey, get your money, what was that interest rate, or what should be the return on their money? No, so I appreciate that.
And this helps with your wholesaling business too, because now you're able, we went through the whole process that your end buyer or the person that you want to sell your deal to is going to do. So it's good to know all the numbers all the way through, so they can't, you know, if you're looking at $100,000 deal and you're trying to cut it to 8, you know the numbers. It just helps when in your negotiation to get the most out of the deal for yourself as well as a wholesaler. So it's good to know the whole process.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Nate, this Delano. What's up, man?
Hey, Delano, what's up, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I know you're conservative with your numbers, but what I've always been impressed with is how do you go to MLS and you're finding these deals on the MLS? Like, how are you separating yourself from the next guy? And what's making you so special when you come in with your deals?
Well, once again, Delano, that deal was not from the MLS. That deal was from networking. So that deal was from networking with agents. And typically what will happen is you'll always, I don't know if you guys watch the MLS, but you'll always see a deal and you're like, man, I would have bought that deal, but it was on the market for 1 day. It was on the market for 0 days, things like that. Most of the times, those are what are called pocket listings. And what it is an agent has a buyer that is like looking to basically, in that case, that it was, you know, the buyer didn't want a lot of people in the house. The house was in disarray. They wanted somebody to close it extremely fast. So as you're networking with these agents and these wholesalers, that's like your competitive advantage is, you know, do what you say you're going to do and provide good value, and, you know, all the other stuff usually kind of, you know, falls into place. Okay.
Agreed.
Other questions? Can you repeat on how to get preferential rates? That was from Ms. Ross. What we were saying is that typically the way you get preferential rates is the more rehabs you do, like, so typically most people will start out somewhere like 3%. But as you build your portfolio of the number of projects you do, your rates tend to get better because you become, in the eyes, what happens is there's a lot of competition out here for hard money lenders. And so you shop them around and basically you're comparing rates, and when they find out that you're a good investor, they're going to give you low rates because they know that if they give you 8%, you're going to do 10 deals with them. If they give you 10%, you might do no deals.
Bo,
with them. So
Braxton in here crying, bro.
Preferential rate.
Braxton.
Thanks.
D. Richardson, can you share your contractors? We could, but then we would have to kill you. No, I'm joking. We did all these.
You holler at me offline. Just get with me.
Contractors.
Yeah, I'm gonna put that up.
One thing about contractors, we really don't honestly make a lot of referrals to contractors. What I would recommend is, what we do though is, we have a project manager, and I think this is probably a better practice for you guys. Even if you don't know anything about construction, you can go out and find what's called a 401k. They're called 401k specialists, and what their whole job is to do is to price rehabs for people. And you can pay these guys like $100 or $200 to like inspect. They're called like third-party inspectors. So like if you know nothing about contracting and you want help with it, you just hire somebody and pay them $100, $200, to come along with you to the job site, and they'll inspect it and talk to your contractor and everything. That way, a contractor won't get over on you. Or, you could give James or myself a call or an email, and we could hook you up with one of, our independent inspectors.
Am I muted?
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, so I put our contact information back.
No, you're muted now.
I'm muted.
Any other questions?
There you go.
And our contact information is on the screen again. Please, if you got any value here today, like Nate said, tag us on Instagram, Facebook, send us an email, give us a call. We want to work with you.
And here's one last thing that I'll say, and I'll leave it at this, is that if you're interested in real estate investing, okay, and you have a passion for it, there is some position that you can play within this whole process. So we were talking about flipping, but if you don't have a lot of money, but you have a lot of time, give us a call. We can help utilize your time where we can have you like marketing for deals. We can teach you that skill. We can bring you into the office. You can do cold calling. We can teach you that. So
Say it again.
So he's pretty much saying, as a new investor, would you recommend starting with small projects first to build your experience and confidence before you go
want to
into
talk
bigger
to us
projects?
about possible joint ventures, or you want to
Okay.
talk to us about lending money, please feel free to reach out. If you're
Remember, they see
already an experienced investor and you just want to build your network, give us a call. There might be deals that we would wholesale to you or that you could wholesale to us. No matter what you think, reach out. It's not going to cost you anything. And if there's anything that we can do to get you guys to that next level, we're definitely here for you. So with that, and I'll let James wrap it up.
No, I agree with everything you said, Nate. I want to thank everybody for coming out. And then what we didn't cover, which Nate usually likes to get into, I don't want to steal the thunder, Nate, but mindset. Let's talk about the mindset really quick. We got 5 minutes. We all have 5 minutes because this is the gasoline that's going to drive this Ferrari that we're trying to build here. Come on, dream level living. Let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll just say this, and a lot is talked about the mind, but very little is understood. And when most people talk about mindset, they're talking about attitude. But what we're finding out is that the mind is like your subconscious. And in order to get to that next level, the first thing, and my piece of advice that I would give everybody on this call is, if you haven't rehabbed a house and you want to rehab a house, the first thing that you have to do is imagine it, dream it, and visualize it. Because nothing is going to be able to be accomplished until in your mind you can actually see it and visualize it. The mind works in two ways. It's basically words and pictures, okay? So in order to change our minds and change our results, we have to change our words and our pictures. So I just implore to everybody on this call that, A, you see how easy it is to be a real estate investor. James and I are proof that just two regular guys can do it. So that tells you right there that there is much more talent on this call. The second thing is that God has given each one of us more talent and ability than we'll ever use in this lifetime. I'll repeat that. God has given us more talent and ability that we will not be able to use in this lifetime. Our gift to God is to use as much of our talent and ability in this lifetime, okay? That was by a guy named Steve Bow. Please, if you have a passion for real estate investing, dream about it. Imagine yourself flipping a house. Imagine yourself wholesaling a house. Imagine yourself making $50,000. Imagine yourself making $100,000. You have to do this on a daily basis. Spend 5 to 10 minutes, because what's going to happen is once you put those images in your mind, magic is going to happen, and your subconscious will take over, and you will start doing things outside of your comfort zone to achieve all of your dreams. Okay?
That's it. That's all, y'all. Am I still on? Am I on mute?
You're on mute.
Oh, let me see.
If there's no other questions, I think we can wrap it up from there.
Thank you. Look, everybody has our contact information. Thank you for coming out. Enjoy your Saturday. Hey, please, if anybody on here wants to talk, please get at me. You have my information. Call me Monday. Call me later on the day. Everybody have a good one. Peace.